Greetings, Ohio Valley. This is Dan Lima with OSU Extension from Belmont County.
And this is Karen Cox from WVU Extension in Ohio County. Thanks for tuning in to Extension Calling, your source for research-based information for the farm, garden, and home. One of the biggest challenges to beginning or expanding farms is often funding.
Land prices are higher than I've ever remembered, and I think it's become harder and harder to establish a farm that's not already there.
Yeah, but even if you have that land, oftentimes building that infrastructure, sometimes you need a big chunk of money. And so we have a special guest with us today, Lisa Jones from the WVU Extension Small Farm Center, and she's going to help us go over some opportunities that might be available for both new and established farms. So Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Karen. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate your invitation to join. As a listener, I was just thinking, oh man, I get to talk about something that might be a little off what you guys normally discuss, but it's something I get a lot of questions about, especially from beginners. So I'm happy to join and hopefully discuss it a little bit with you all today. So thank you.
Very important topic, a lot of relevance, both at the Ohio State side and I'm sure in the West Virginia side as well. The Small Farms Conference program at Ohio State is huge. If you are interested in something like that, please contact me and I'll get you connected with the right person for that. But every year it's a program that gets a lot of attention, has a lot of merit, and really gives good guidance.
In West Virginia, our Small Farm Conference is getting ready to kick off at the end of this month. Lisa, can you give us a little bit of a prelude to what people could see at Small Farm Conference this year?
Yeah, so thank you. And Dan, I have not had the opportunity to join Ohio for theirs yet. So hopefully I will be able to participate here soon. So for the West Virginia Small Farm Conference, it is coming up at the end of February. It'll be that whole week of February the 21st through the 25th. It will be virtual, so people can participate from wherever you are located. So please join us. The cost is free this year just because of the ongoing pandemic and financial concerns. And it's a lot easier to make a conference free when you don't have to worry about facilities. So if you're interested in joining, what we normally do is have lots of different types of topics because we know farming, especially in West Virginia, is so diversified. We do a little bit of everything from marketing to business planning to production, things like talking about these grant opportunities. Some years, not this year, but some years we'll have beekeeping. We'll talk a little bit of everything when it comes to farming. This year, if you're interested in learning more about things like carbon credits, we'll be talking about that. These value-added producer grants that are coming up from USDA. We're going to have a session about UPIC operations. If you want to learn things about the cider industry in West Virginia and what that looks like, if you're interested in starting there, it is just so widespread across the board. I encourage you to check out our website. You can find it through WVU Extension Service. If you look for the Small Farm Conference, it'll pop right up and we'll have a program up there. I just go ahead and get registered, and that way you can see the whole program in our system. But it is coming up just in 2 weeks, so we're pretty excited.
Most definitely. I always love the Small Farm Conference. It's a great opportunity because it is focused on small farms. And because it is virtual, you can still keep your wood burner going and stay home and participate in a lot of great learning opportunities. So do check it out. Like Lisa said, it's free, so you don't really have any excuse.
Yeah, and the Ohio State Small Conference and Trade Show, it's got a theme, sowing the seeds for success. And that one's not virtual. It's going to be at the Ohio State University branch in Mansfield. And that's March 12, 2022. So the registration is still happening, so you can still join that. Or you could do both. I mean, it sounds like you could do the West Virginia one and then the Ohio one a little bit later. But it is such an important topic. And it's a topic that Extension across the country has been guiding beginning farmers to make sure that they're successful, because it's always good to at least start off in the right way, because you can really make or break yourself at the beginning of your career.
Right. And, one of the things we advocate a lot on this show is slow growth. So starting off small, learning what you're doing, getting your feet dirty and your hands dirty, but not getting so deep that you're going to sink in the mud. So you don't want to start off with a lot of debt. We really recommend that when you are a beginning farmer that you do start slow, because it can be so overwhelming. There's so much involved in farming. You heard the list of programs that Lisa mentioned from the conference. That's because there's so much variety in farming, so many different things that you need to know that it can be very overwhelming. So start small, but also start cheap, So one of the first things when you're looking at starting a business, you hear about getting a loan, right? So loans are out there for agriculture, but there's also grants. And so, Lisa, you want to give our listeners a brief overview of some of the questions that they need to ask themselves before they even start the process of applying for a loan or a grant?
Yeah. So thinking about yourself as a business, that's kind of the mindset that you need to be in, because a farm is a business by definition through USDA, through the IRS, those types of, those really important entities that you're going to be engaging with. You are a business. So part of it is the mindset that you need to be in, and just like take a little bit of time to dream. So what does your farm look like? If you already have land, what does that look like? And where do you want to be in the short term? And what are some of those long-term goals that you might have? One of the things I love to do when people call is just ask them, like, what do you want out of your property? Like, what do you see for the future? And part of that is just trying to understand where people are coming from, because farming is so diversified, but also trying to get an idea of how realistic some of those goals might be as well. And then I can help people connect and network to the appropriate groups over time, and just give them a little bit of like a nudge here or there and say, oh, you want to grow strawberries? Have you gotten that soil test? And just making sure that they are thinking through all of these things and really thinking about their farm, like from the system approach, because you should be thinking about your farm from a system. And just dream about it just for a little while. And then after you dream about it, if you're one of those vision board people, go ahead and do that. If not, just write your ideas down on paper. And that is going to be the start of a business plan, which for the loans, that's something that people want to see, is that business plan. And in general, I like to know whether or not you've thought through that process. Have you thought about your expenses? Have you thought about insurance? Have you thought about your income? Where is your revenue coming from? Are you relying on grants every single year? Because that's not very sustainable. And just have you thought about like why your farm is going to be a little different, or what is valuable about your location? Who's going to be coming to your area? Are you taking advantage of tourism? There's so many different amazing opportunities. Or maybe you don't like people, and the reason you want to be a farmer is you've got some land in a holler in West Virginia, and all you want to do is hay on the side of the hill, or maybe some cattle. That's fine too. But just think about what that looks like, and that way you know how to move forward, because not everybody's a people person. That's one of the beautiful things about ag. You can do farmers markets and engage people and educate them, or you don't have to engage anybody but but a broker at the stockyards, right? So there's so many different opportunities, and that's really the first phase of this like farm journey, if you want to think about it that way.
Yes. And I love that you went over all of the different aspects, because one of the things that we say, or that all extension agents really say, if you've been to one farm, you've been to one farm, because there are no two farms that are identical and no two farmers that are identical. And having thought through those processes is really important, because once you've gone through that brainstorming process of why in the world are you doing this? What do you want to get out of it? That helps you get a trajectory laid out so that you can start building into different programs, which could narrow down some funding opportunities for you.
Yeah, and Lisa, I really like when you were talking about, the audience that you're trying to target here for a small farm, for just a startup farm, people that are brand new to agriculture, these are people that have a vision. They typically, at least from my experience, like the specialty crops. There's a change in the way people are engaging with certain products like hops and shiitake mushrooms. Hemp production's new in the market. Pawpaws, like they're coming back, and people get excited. They get a vision, and they almost have a niche market right there. So they're starting off with passion and a niche market, and I think those are two very important steps to take before you even move forward and start building that business around that vision. Having a market is something that even the veteran farmers, sometimes they've been doing things the way they've been doing things, and maybe that market isn't as rich as it used to be. And I find having that marketing aspect to be critical for success.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dan. And this is something where I deal with a lot of beginning farmers that are either, they've lived in the state for a while and they're just maybe their first generation removed from ag and they want to get back into it, or they might be moving to the state. But that idea of examining your market is really important across the generations. And that is something that we see a lot, especially with like the dairy industry, for those folks that are realizing, their farm is no longer viable with that particular industry for one reason or another, just because it's been so volatile over the years. We are seeing some of these younger generations they might be taking over the operation or coming on as partners with their family members, and trying to tell people, hey, the business isn't going to survive at the scale we're at. We need to diversify. So maybe they add ice cream, or maybe they take the the waste product and do something with it. So you've got to get a little creative sometimes. And that is where things like some of these grants, if you have an innovative idea, can be really helpful. But just think, again, it's a business. It's kind of like a living thing. It doesn't need to be stuck in one particular mode for generations and generations. It's okay to add things. Change isn't a bad thing. Change is constant. So that is every now and then. And of course, you should be looking at your business documents like on the regular, because that's what we are, right? We are business people. We need to make sure our farms stay viable for those generations coming later. So add markets if needed. Yes, definitely.
These ideas aren't just for new farmers. Like you were just saying, the idea of changing your farm and adapting it to a new market. So for instance, if you want to start processing the animals that you have been selling live, you want to sell that finished meat product. Or let's say you want to build a high tunnel or a greenhouse to expand your season. So it's not just for beginning farms. But before we get too far down that road, because we could spend all day talking about how you can develop your business plan. But let's talk about some opportunities that are actually out there right now to provide funding for beginning or existing farms.
Yeah, so this is something where we could talk for a lot longer, but we'll just give the general overview, because one of the things that I love to do is talk to people about where to find funding. I get phone calls a lot. I hear you have money. Well, no, actually, I don't. I don't have money to give out to people, but I can direct you as an individual or as the representative of maybe a co-op or an association or a nonprofit or whatnot of where to look for those types of opportunities. So up front, I want to say that grants are not just free money. So once upon a time, hopefully you learned that there's no free lunch, right? A grant is really, it's you saying that you will have an action, or you are creating a promise between yourself and another organization that you're going to be doing something. They give you money, you give them outputs. Okay. So it's not it's not just free money. And neither is a loan, right? You have to pay that back. There isn't really free money that exists. So just get that in your mind. And then also, I deal with a lot of state and federal grant programs. So those are the ones I'm very familiar with. However, there's also lots of private grants that exist that might be more appropriate for what your idea is. There's lots of philanthropic groups, there's angel investors, and all of these types of things. We're not getting into crowdfunding today. That's a slightly different topic, but there's lots of opportunities out there. And I want to just tell you that within reason, your idea is probably going to get funded by someone. It is just finding the entity that would like to fund your idea. So your idea is not necessarily the stoppage here. That's what I want to put up first.
Got it.
When it comes to state and federal grants, know that typically when you have a larger amount of money that you are asking for, there's more paperwork, which means a lot of times you would want to work with your neighbors or work with an association, work with another group to help capture those dollars, because there is paperwork. If you don't like doing record keeping for your business as it is, there's a lot of extra record keeping that comes with a grant. Just throwing that out there. So start maybe with something a little bit smaller. There's lots of wonderful grants if you want to help out with like a community garden or help getting a gardening program done at a school, that kind of thing. If you're thinking about your own operation, in West Virginia specifically, and throughout the country, actually, we have something called a specialty crop block grant. And in our state, it goes through our Department of Agriculture. These are funds that come down from USDA and they get dispersed to the state. And then the state has individuals or organizations apply for those monies. And that way you can make your idea happen. Those particular funds are for marketing purposes. So if that's something that you're interested in, get with a group. That's really one of the emphasis here. And part of that is because as an individual, it's harder to find more diversified opportunities for funding if you're just applying as one person. Partly because the impact isn't as large. So those are slightly different funding sources.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about commodity groups, because everyone has that common interest. They like to talk about it. They like to share stories. And the thing about the farming community and agriculture in general is people like to talk to each other. The beauty of Extension as an entity is that it helps connect these things. It helps bring people that are interested in a certain specialty crop, let's say, that's new, but they have a passion about, to maybe somebody that's already tried it. And, people typically open up their farms and they talk about these issues. So I guess as far as prep work goes, figure out the commodity groups, talk to your extension office, and you see if there's an opportunity to go see that crop in action, to go see how they do it, to go meet the people that have been doing it possibly for years. And they can really give you some sound, good advice. The value of that it's huge. You're talking about years of experience that people are sharing with you before you even get your feet wet. Do your best to try to capitalize on that.
Yes, that is an excellent point, Dan. And so one of the things that you can ask about, and make sure you do connect, and of course I'm biased, however, make sure you do connect with your extension service, because there's a lot of things going on that you may or may not hear about, because it doesn't always end up in your local newspaper or in the news. But there are opportunities, especially one I'll point out is SARE, which stands for Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. So we are part of Northeast SARE in West Virginia, and I believe in Ohio. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it North Central or Central SARE in Ohio?
I think we're North Central, correct?
North Central. Okay, yes. So the country is broken down into different regions, and that is mainly important because it's going to change where you might apply, but also the deadlines for these grant opportunities. So if you partner with a group like Extension and you really want to say, grow heritage green beans, because that's something we've been working on here. If you really want to grow heritage green beans, you'd want to reach out to a horticulture specialist and say, I would like to do this. Is this something we can work on together? And then there are these partnership grants where the university can take on the paperwork side, but the funding will go to you and also other people, and you can all grow green beans at the same time. You can test market them in a particular area, and the university will help you with those costs in partnership with SARE, and it becomes this wonderful project. You can learn from other people. You can test out the design. We were working on the trellis design for these green beans to see if we can improve harvesting. Does that help your U-pick operation? So this is something that you're not doing alone. You have other people you can rely on. You have an expert that can help you out. And again, does not have to be about green beans. It can be about whatever topic you're interested in. But the point is that partnerships and having those strong networks, that's the very important part for these. Now, SARE does offer a farmer grant if you say, I have this really amazing, innovative idea, something that maybe you've never heard of before that other people aren't doing. Those are those unique, innovative ideas that come out from farmers that we see years, generations later, that are helping people across the world. And it always came back to that one person that said, I want to try this, right? The goal for at least this particular grant program is for you to share those ideas with others, assuming, if there's good success and that's something that would be beneficial to other people, then yes, those are the types of opportunities that we want to spread and say, this will help your neighbors also be sustainable. This will help people across the Northeast region also improve their farms. So the idea there is that we are helping farmers test out these really amazing, innovative ideas, whether it's with technology or equipment or whatever. It can really be anything almost under the sun, as long as it hasn't been done. That's the point, right? But you have to be able to share that information under this particular program. Now, there are other funding avenues that you can look into if you are wanting to be an inventor, want to have a patent, those types of things. Again, that's something where a university could help you out with walking through those particular steps. And then from there are certain groups that are able to help you with manufacturing pieces, your state SBA, your Small Business Administration. Those types of groups can help you with some of those additional steps if that's the path you take. But that's not appropriate for everybody. So no pressure.
Right. Yeah, and I do want to make sure that everyone out there knows that SARE is a great resource for information as well. They have at SARE.org, SARE.org, they have numerous different resources that have been made available by people participating in these past grants. So they're all research supported. It's not just the whim or the idea of someone. It has been proven. And so you know that the information you're getting from SARE will help you. And they have a lot of free downloads, or if you're a paper person, you can still buy the books. They have those available too. SARE.org, SARE.org. Great resource to go with your extension resources.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that information, Karen. It is fantastic, the amount of things that they have. And sometimes I think, oh, this might be a unique idea. And then I go and find that somebody has done it and those resources are already available. And that is one of those, whenever we were talking about what is the point of grants, those outputs, that's the type of information that we're looking for. That's a reason that a lot of these projects get funded, is to help disseminate that information across the US, across the globe even. And a lot of different programs, they could be funded through USDA, it could be funded through groups like SARE. They typically have some sort of publication, fact sheet, designs that you can look up. But all of these projects that have been funded, especially because it uses taxpayer money, they have to be able to report out. So you can go back through years, like even decades for some programs, of what has been done and see how it worked out and what they learned from the lessons and just
learn from others' mistakes, right?
exactly. Yes. Because that's how we grow, right? So before we run out of time, I do want to mention the USDA, the Value Added Producer Grant, because that is something that some people might be interested in learning about. That one helps if you're interested in processing or changing up the marketing of a product. So if you grow all potatoes all the time, that's the thing that you do. That's the thing that your family has done for generations. That is awesome. But if you learn that maybe you could sell more potatoes by marketing through the school system, but they need them to come in a different form, that's something that Value Added Producer Grant could help you with. So typically, again, it is more of an association type of thing. So if you're in a potato association, or you're on you're with the National Potato Industry Group, then those are the types of groups that these value-added producer grants typically are targeted towards, or if you're part of a local co-op. But then that allows you to create what some people think of as a new product. Like in your mind, oh, well, it's a potato, now it's a cut potato. But that is adding value and expanding these marketing opportunities because now a school wants them. Now the restaurant down the street wants, well, not down the street, in town wants them. And that can potentially produce your income. So that's definitely something to look for. USDA is supposed to announce that particular grant coming out within the next couple weeks. So if that's something that interests you, definitely look for it. I also heard from our rural development office that this year, partly because of a lot of the funding that's come out, there's a really big focus on meat processing. And there's going to be a lot of funding coming down the pike very, very soon when it comes to those opportunities, as well as supporting our food supply chains. So with COVID and the pandemic, we've seen a lot of disruptions in the supply chain, right? And the government is saying we need to help address those. And finally, funding is coming. It's going to be very wide open as to how this all plays out.
That's fantastic.
Exactly. I'm so excited. But as long as you're working with other folks, and if you're a beginner, it is never too early to connect with your neighbors and connect with what's happening in the food community within your area. It is never too early. So if you're trying to figure out what that looks like in West Virginia, definitely let me know. Feel free to reach out at any point. I'm sure Dan can help you out with Ohio, or I can send you to a couple other people that I work with in Ohio. But there are so many opportunities out there that I don't want you to ever feel like your idea isn't good enough, because your idea is probably incredible. It's just whether or not it's already been funded and in your area and what it looks like and who are you working with to make it happen. So dream big and feel free to give me a call or email me at any point in time and we'll chat about it.
So Lisa, how can people get a hold of you?
You can always look up for my information. My name is Lisa Jones through the West Virginia University Extension Service. I am the Senior Program Coordinator under the Small Farm Center. Or you can always call my office. It's 304-293-2715.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you didn't even get to scratch the surface of the different grants and funding opportunities that are available, but unfortunately, we are out of time. Thanks for listening to Extension Calling. This show is a collaboration between OSU Belmont County Extension Educator Dan Lima and WVU Ohio County Extension Agent Karen Cox. If you'd like a transcript of this show, contact us at the office. Also, let us know if you enjoy the show by ranking us on your podcast app.